I'm Dan Beyer.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, hands up, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome on into the Full Court Press. Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen here on a Wednesday. Hump day. All the camels are happy.
Yes. Let's go.
And we're here on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan, streaming online at 1069thefan.com, the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Wherever you get your podcasts, there's so many I suddenly forgot the whole spiel about all the different ways you can listen to this. The mobile app, 1069thefan.com, podcast feed, yada, yada, yada.
FM, AM, tinfoil hats.
Well, it's like when I go to my desk, and if I'm wearing my headphones, sometimes it like picks up radio signals.
Where you're like right where your cubicle is. You're like right under the tower, basically.
So I'm pretty sure I'm just picking up radio signals somehow through the cables or something like that. It's just sneaking in. It's very faint, but I can hear it. And I'm pretty sure I'm not crazy. Only pretty sure, though.
Just pretty sure.
If you guys want to join the show, feel free to text in 435-339-0321. That's the number to join via the Full Court Press text line. A lot of smaller topics to get to today. We're going to be jumping around, I think, probably 5 or 6 different sports here across a couple different levels of competition. We've got Utah Jazz, Utah Hockey Club, RSL, Utah State Volleyball, soccer, maybe even a little bit of NFL, World Series. We're all over the place. It's kind of how it ends up on these bye weeks. Is we gotta balance things out a little bit, because we focus a lot on Utah State football when it's going, a lot on Utah State men's basketball, but we're kind of between those two things. They're both going to get going. Utah State football will get going again next week, as they're currently on their bye. Utah State men's basketball, I believe, a week from today. I think I saw some tweeting saying they're a week away, which I believe is right. It's November 6th is their official season opener against Alcorn State. Women's basketball begins a couple days before that as they host Kansas City.
Yeah, November 4th.
Yeah, November 4th. So a chance to see both of those teams in action next week, in Utah State football taking on Washington State on the road in a week and a half. But until then, we'll focus on some of these other local and pro sports. Let's get to some of these texts before we dive into our topics. I didn't realize how long this one was. 2444 saying 1 week until the season begins for USU basketball, with this being the bye week for football. I'd love to hear a little more basketball analysis. I have a few questions myself, but would love to hear any updates or insights that you guys have. One, how did the scrimmage against Oregon go? Has coach decided on which, if any, players will redshirt this season? Any lingering injuries or limitations on the roster for game 1? Should we anticipate the same starting lineup that we saw against Weber State? Why don't we dive into this? Wasn't necessarily planning on men's basketball. This is something we wanted to touch on a little bit. I'm getting into my position previews real quick before the season gets going. Kind of one last written hurrah for men's basketball before getting into the grind of recaps and weekly analysis and whatnot. Let's kind of hit all these different questions. One, I've not really heard specifically how the scrimmage against Oregon went. I haven't really asked, so I haven't heard. And I don't know how much I'd read. A lot of people like to read into those. I I tend not to. I've heard of seasons where they have horrible secret scrimmages and they do just fine, and years where they have fantastic secret scrimmages and then they don't do fine. I have a harder time reading into those than, especially when I've had a chance to see the game against Weber State. That was probably enough preseason analysis for me to get an idea, to kind of confirm what I feel like are the strengths of the team and what I felt like were the weaknesses of the team. Obviously, we need more sample size to know truly how good this team is. But yeah, I wasn't as curious about the secret scrimmage against Oregon as other people were.
Yeah, I haven't heard yet either. I'm trying to find any details that we can find. But one thing to always keep in mind with scrimmages is that as much as we want to look at them as, what does this tell us about the team and how the team's going to look versus types of opponents and things like that, a scrimmage is it's a glorified practice, and sometimes in a scrimmage, coaches are going to try to run things and just keep running things to have teaching moments with their players. And they may not necessarily be true reflections of what you see in a real game. So there might be lineups, there might be bench players, there might be certain things that occur over the course of a scrimmage that you may not really see the course of the season, at least not early on. And so sometimes scrimmages are solid indicators, like where they are, especially if you're playing against teams that should be quote unquote above you. Out of a power conference, and if the team's competitive against them, those are definitely good things you can take from a scrimmage. I guess what I'm saying is just caution people to not overreact to the results of a scrimmage or the details that you may hear from a scrimmage.
Yeah, one way or the other. Like I said, you've had good secret scrimmages, bad, and it doesn't have as much indication on the season. As you mentioned, teams are just going to do what they're going to do, and they may look bad the entire time, but it's more so practice. 5344 saying, from what I've heard, Ags lost by 35 in the secret scrimmage, was reported on some forums and a Twitter post. So take that with all the credibility you can. Which I guess I don't know how much credibility that does have. So the problem is you get to forums and it's like, I know a guy, I know someone in the athletic department. And that can be true or completely false. It's hard to tell sometimes when you see those screenshots of forums and you're like, who is this random person? Is it like the burner account of the athletic director, or is it some guy with a buddy?
Yeah, and sometimes you'll see full box scores released.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I haven't seen anything. I haven't heard anything. So I really don't have much to offer as far as an answer there. Sorry, 2444.
Yeah, but to get through some of these other questions, his coach decided on which, if any, players will redshirt. I know and he brought this up unprompted after the exhibition against Weber. That was Jordy Barnes, where it was just like, this is a guy who, depth chart wise, is behind Dayton Albury, Drake Allen, and Braden Housley. And I think all three of those guys are going to play. Well, they are all going to play, mainly because two of them are seniors and one of them's already used his red shirt, and you're going to want that depth anyway. Housley he'll probably get, to make a comparison, kind of what Carson Templin had last year, where he's not going to play every game, but he's going to play semi-consistently. In games where maybe they tighten up the rotation, Housley may not play as much, but he's going to play. But to get back to Jordy Barnes, this is a guy who I think on a lot of teams could probably be a year one contributor off the bench, but he's just got so many guys in front of him who have more experience, who do just about anything Jordy Barnes can do, but they have the more experience, and they're just going to be better players this season. I think Jordy Barnes is definitely a guy to keep an eye on, is a guy who could become a really good, pure point guard, because that's his archetype. I mean, you go read my breakdown on Cache Valley Daily if you can find where it's buried, because it's like 3 or 4 months old at this point. But some of the passes that kid was able to make in high school were pretty crazy. But year one, you might want to just go with the red shirt, just because like he's got two fourth or fifth year seniors in front of him and a red shirt freshman. So if he's just so good that you can't bench him, maybe he plays. But I think they're probably going to lean toward redshirting him. As far as lingering injuries, Pavle Stosic is the only one who didn't play against Weber State. And I haven't heard of any injuries since then. And from what I heard, Stosic's injury wasn't really significant.
Right. Yeah, same. I haven't heard anything too significant. Minor things that happen over the course of physical practices that you have with a lot, deep, talented roster. Sometimes guys are just going to get banged up a little bit over the course of running drills and things like that. But nothing. I haven't heard of anything significant, at least not since the last time we heard from the coach. It's been a minute, but so far it sounds like the team's pretty healthy.
Yeah. And then should we anticipate the same starting lineup that we saw against Weber State? I think so. That was one that, there were a couple different possible starting lineups, and I think through the scrimmages and practices, it became a little more apparent that they were going to go with the Twin Tower starting lineup. And I think, initially I thought Dayton Albury was going to start at point guard, but then it became pretty apparent that Drake Allen was going to be there. So unless there's something just drastic that changes behind the scenes, I think you're going to see that same starting five with Drake Allen, Ian Martinez, Mason Falstaff, Isaac Johnson, and Avin Gadarazzi. The only thing that would change that is if Tucker Anderson really kind of ups his game, him or Dexter Akano. Basically, if one of those proves that they can play the four better than Isaac Johnson. Does that happen? I couldn't tell you, but right now that's your starting. You got your starting five. And I think but more so than I think other teams, because we've pretty much had the starting lineup nailed down like within a game or two, and that was pretty much the starting lineup the entire season. This is the first year in a while where I'm like, we could maybe see a significant change in the starting lineup mid-season based on performance and guys, figuring out that maybe some guys are better for a starting role than others.
Yeah, there's enough depth there that Coach Calhoun can play with that if he feels like there's a matchup that works better in Utah State's favor based on the opponent. If somebody is emerging, I don't think he necessarily has to feel confined to a small number of guys that he can turn to or trust over the course of the game. Now, granted, this is all very speculative at this point because we haven't had real legitimate ball games yet. But this team does show that it has depth and versatility. So there conceivably could be changes as the season goes. And I think it would be based more on who the opponent is. If there's something that Utah State can do in its lineup to gain an advantage, that Coach Calhoun would strongly consider. And I think it's a possibility. I don't think this is necessarily a knock against anybody as much as it is just good coaching and good scouting.
Yeah, if they play much smaller teams, like say an Air Force who plays a much smaller lineup, you could see Akano starting at the 4 or Tucker Anderson, depending on who ends up fitting that and if they can guard smaller players. Again, basically, it's, can they play that 4 role better than Isaac Johnson? That's the question, either overall or against a specific opponent. Or you could have a drastic change. Let's say Isaac Davis or Carson Temple and just ball out. Well, then maybe they move into that starting lineup. Maybe you replace Avin Gadarazzi or Isaac Johnson. It'd probably be Gadarazzi if one of them were to just elevate so much that they had to become a starter. But, that's something that's hard to predict. I wouldn't really predict it because the offseason has told us that that's your starting 5. That's who the best options are. And so unless there's something that just completely blows you away, it'll probably be the starting 5. But I think with so much experience and so much talent on this team, the margins for being a starter are a lot thinner than they have been in the past. There are a lot of guys who you could say have the experience to quote unquote deserve a starting spot.
Yeah, true.
But there's only 5 of them on the team. So there may be some experimentation. And in the end, I don't think being a starter is going to mean that much on this team. Like I said, the margins are so thin where starters aren't going to get starter minutes. Like the 30 to 35 minutes per game. There's only going to be maybe one or I'd be surprised if more than 1 or 2 guys averages more than 30 minutes a game.
True. Yeah, easily could have guys coming off the bench that have just as many, if not more minutes as some of the starters do.
Because Drake Allen's going to split a lot of his minutes with Dayton Albury. Mason Falstaff, is going to split a lot of his minutes with all of the guards. Like Ian Martinez is probably the one guy that I'd say I'm pretty confident he's going to break 30 minutes per game. Everyone else, mid-20s. Just because there are a lot of guys that they're going to be going to provide depth, to make sure everyone's fresh, and they have enough guys to actually justify going with that depth. At least so far as I can tell. Maybe I'm being a little too optimistic. I've tried not to drink the Kool-Aid of this is the year we have 11 guys that can all play. But when you brought in like 9 transfers who are all starters last year, it's a little easier to buy that you actually have depth.
3714. I know a guy whose brother knows the Spectrum janitor who said the Aggies won by 35 and falsely hit all 9 of his shots.
There you go. Except they were in Oregon, so
yeah.
Was he actually moonlighting as the Oregon janitor?
Traveled.
He's a freelance
just to help pick up trash. Or
he's a freelance janitor.
Yeah,
got work all up and down the West Coast, Intermountain West.
No, it was required that one janitor from each team's arena had to be on hand.
There you go. Gotta be fair.
That's good.
I don't want an Oregon janitor picking up all of the cups from the Utah State bench. Come on. It's got to be fair.
Gotta go in the right spot at the right time, at the right angle.
Yeah, I got to put that. Gotta have that bias taken out.
I don't want to mess with the juju of the team.
Yeah, basically. Well, it's like when Paul George? He was like, I forget. It was like there was some. I think he was playing for Team USA, but normally, like when you're on the NBA, you drink a little Gatorade cup, and then you reach behind you, and somebody grabs it for you. And he was doing that. I want to say it was Team USA, but like he reached, he did that same thing, and then it was like, oh wait, nobody's gonna come grab. I got to take care of my own trash. It's that same kind of thing. You gotta be in the mode.
That's right.
There.
That's right.
9315 saying Ajay sure can travel as the great USU janitor. Left that one wide open.
Yeah, that's right. The janitor.
And then let's get to one more text here, and then why don't we actually hit a break? We'll use that as a chance to transition. One thing that we will be talking about a little bit later certainly is that Aggie volleyball team clicking on all cylinders last night. Poor Nevada got robbed. The first 3 of that capitalized to emphasize Rob Neilson.
Yeah, Rob Neilson, Coach Neilson. Look, this team had a shaky start. A lot of younger players and trying to get them coached up and prepared. This is a team that's had a lot of success. Teams are anxious to beat up on the Aggies a little bit. But then it started to go from being swept in 3 sets to being competitive. And then they had this long stretch of getting it to 5 sets and struggling in a lot of those to actually get over the hump. And now it's flipped the other way. And now they're starting to win a lot of games. So this young squad of USU volleyball players, they've gone through a lot early in the year and have learned from that, as we've clearly seen. The coaching has been fantastic. And they're getting to the point where they're the ones now sweeping their opponents.
Yeah.
And so it's totally flipped. So sometimes you lose by wide margins, then you lose by narrow margins, then you win by narrow margins, and then you win by wide margins. And that's kind of where the direction this volleyball team is headed.
Yeah, they've really, gone through, it feels like they've gone through the entire rebuilding process. And, there's that, rebuilding time where you're not so good. And then there's the kind of mediocre, you might say mediocre like record. Like, 1 year you go like 5-15, the next year you go 10-10, then you go 15-5. It seems like Utah State has gone through all 3 stages of that in one season, where they've gone through the rebuild with the young players, the being competitive and okay, and then being the more dominant team. That's, more of what they were last year, obviously. Now, I don't know if it's going to lead to conference championships or conference tournament titles or an NCAA tournament bid, but you can see that this team is setting itself up for success, this year and long term under Rob Neilson.
This Nevada team beat USU earlier in the year in 5 sets.
Yeah.
So it was a competitive one of those that we talked about, but Nevada got the better of the Aggies. This time, very different story. And not only did USU beat Nevada, but they hit 500 for the match And according to USU media relations folks, that's the first time they've hit at 500 or better since 1997 in a game at VCU against VCU.
Yeah, it's pretty absurd efficiency. Rob Neilson calling it was one of the more complete games they've ever had, or something like that. Which is tough to get a coach to say that.
Yes,
when you're having a coach saying, "Oh, it's just about a complete game." It's like, holy cow, dude. that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
to get that kind of praise, especially when the standards are very high at Utah State. But yeah, they've won 7 out of their last 9, although one of those losses was the forfeit to San Jose State. So the last 8 times they've taken the court, they've won 7 of those games.
Yeah, it was. I'm not going to get into some of the details here because I don't really know all of them, but I know that they're at least they got a release. There were apparently a lot of political figures in the stands for that one last night as well.
For the Nevada Utah State?
Yeah, just to support the players and some of the decisions that they've made here recently. So
interesting. I don't want to dive too deep into politics there.
Just that it happened. That's all I'll say.
All right, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Utah Jazz. Played last night, lost, perhaps not surprisingly. But let's get into that. Talk about, is the tank on for the Jazz? They're now 0-4. Lauri Markkanen leaving the game early. What's his status going to be like? Is he going to take it easy the next little bit, maybe facilitate that tank a little bit more? We'll get into that next here on the Full Court Press.
Have you thought about your furnace lately? Of course not. It's hot outside. Now's a great time to start thinking about replacing it or having it serviced for fall and winter. Advanced Heating and Air will help you get some of the industry's best rebates on a new high-efficient York furnace installed in your home. Or one of Advanced Heating and Air's service professionals can service your furnace for the upcoming winter season. Call today, 752-7272, or schedule a free estimate at advancedheating-ac.com. York. Install confidence.
Did your washer just quit and now your laundry is piling up? If your appliance is broken down, give Daryl's Appliance a call. This is Jay with Daryl's Appliance. We are the only appliance shop in Cache Valley that offers service and sales. That means we have an exclusive, no stress service call offer. You can apply your service trip fee to a new appliance if you decide you want a new appliance instead. Save time and money with everything under one roof. Servicing northern Utah and southern Idaho at Daryl's Appliance, west on Airport Road. See store for details.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Four 339-0321. That's the number to join the Full Court Press text line. You already sent us off track because I was planning on leading the show with the Utah Jazz and had a lot of our Utah State topics. I kind of gathered them all in the second hour. That's just how there wasn't any rhyme or reason why I put them in the second hour, but I grouped them together. Then we got off talking about Utah State volleyball and Utah State basketball. 3714. Yes, we will be talking about Coach Martins later again. Like I said, I kind of put it all together. A lot of the Utah State volleyball and soccer stuff in the second hour is kind of where I threw it. Although maybe since we've been talking about Utah State, we should maybe just push all the Utah Jazz stuff to the second hour.
We can. That's fine. And we're flexible like that.
Why are we going to do that? Ignore the tease that I had at the end of the last segment. I'm calling an audible, especially because we got
texts keep rolling in.
Yeah, we've got more text rolling in on this, so it fits for us to talk about it in the first hour. So if you were hoping to hear about the Utah Jazz, I guess we'll get to that later instead.
So just something more just about Utah State volleyball. And just what a great job Rob Neilson is doing at Utah State. And it'd be great if Utah State can keep him around. It's going to be really hard to do. I know he was in high demand a year ago. He'll be high demand again this year. But what a job that even if he ends up leaving, can we just appreciate the amazing thing he's done for Utah State here recently? The way that he has molded this team this year into what they're now accomplishing, that's a fairly quick turnaround if you think about it. With that many young players, you would think they might have to go through some things this year, but next year is when to really watch out for the Aggies. Well, he's got them flipped to being a very competitive top-level volleyball team in just a matter of a few short months. And so that's no small feat. And so he deserves a lot of credit. Certainly the players deserve a ton of credit as well. But that, again, speaks to the recruiting his staff is doing and the development and work that they're doing at the Estes Center to get them ready for game day. So congratulations to another great and dominant win for the Utah State women's volleyball.
Yeah, I mean, this is a program that as recently as 2019 lost 28 games in a single season. In 2020, the shortened year, they go 5-10. And then from 2021 onward, they've been, a dominant team. 10+ wins in conference play pretty much every year. And obviously last year kind of culminating where you had a fantastic senior class in it. It resulted in a pretty special year where you go 17-1. You just about go undefeated in conference play and, in non-conference play, beating some pretty solid teams. So, and as you said, you think, okay, you had the culmination of the seniors in 2023, and okay, now you got to rebuild. And it was looking like that, but it's like, no, the standards are high. They're going to be conference contenders every year. They're a conference contender right now. I didn't, with how they kind of struggled in the non-conference, thought, well, maybe they wouldn't be as competitive, but they're fourth with like a couple weeks left to play.
Yeah, with that win last night, they're 10-11 overall, 7-4 in conference play. Mind you, one of those is a forfeit. So this team is securely in fourth position in the standings, just a half a game ahead of San Diego State and Boise State. The top 6 teams advance to the tournament. So if Utah State can continue to be competitive and stay where they're at, they're going to be in a good position to go to the tournaments with some momentum on their side. They can't slip up because they got 2 teams really close to them, behind them in the standings. So they have to continue to win and play well to secure their spot in the overall conference standings.
Yeah, the fight definitely isn't over for them, and there are obviously still aspects of this team that are maybe young and inexperienced. And who knows, maybe they slip up, or maybe what they've started is how they're going to finish. Maybe they're going to end on a dominant run. We're going to have to wait and see. But the standard is high. That's the thing about Rob Neilson, is he set the standard almost too high for his own good, in that going 10-11 is almost a disappointment. But the fact that he's gone 7-4 in conference play shows that he's still largely meeting his own standard.
Boise State coming to town on Halloween. So for those of you who don't really love the holiday,
or if you really love it and want to go, dressed as
go in costume, right? Cheer on the Aggies in costume as they take on Boise State, who's right behind them in the standings. So this is a really, really important game Thursday. So hopefully a great crowd there in Club Estes. But that's their next game. Very competitive, important game for USU. Taking on Boise State, who the Aggies beat in 5 sets just a few weeks ago. So this is could be a very spicy one for USU with only about a month left, a little less than a month left in the regular season.
Yeah. 2603 saying, love seeing the volleyball and soccer teams doing well. Love taking my daughter to their games. And 2444 with a similar comment saying, great to see both volleyball and soccer performing as well as they are right now. With an added question, if you guys had to predict, who do you think will have a better postseason run? And I think for that, I'd have to lean on soccer because this is a team that I can just about guarantee will be in the NCAA tournament. Volleyball, I can't say that about. They only punch a ticket to the NCAA tournament if they win the Mountain West tournament. And volleyball isn't even guaranteed a spot in the Mountain West tournament. They still really have to fight for that. So,
right. Yeah. Like I said, there's still about 4 weeks of play, so there's still a lot of games that they need to get through. But Utah State has already punched their ticket for the girls' women's soccer tournament. And are probably already in the NCAA tournament based on their resume. Right, their body of work strong enough to get them there. Yeah, so now, granted, you never know. Maybe volleyball wins the tournament, wins the conference tournament. Obviously, have to get there first. And maybe they win a game in the NCAA tournament. Who knows? The crazier things have happened. But it's certainly a lot more likely that Utah State soccer, the soccer team could be hosting an NCAA tournament game if, they win out the rest of the way. They're not going to win the regular season conference title. That ship has unfortunately sailed. But conference tournament title is very much within their grasp. And, that would be the automatic ticket to the NCAA tournament. And much more likely a much more favorable seed. But on the note of Utah State soccer, we've kind of alluded to this a little bit. We had the one texter mentioning it. And that is that Manny Martins has received a contract extension and a much, much deserved contract extension for Coach Martins. Yeah, keep him here through 2027. He was the Mountain West Conference Coach of the Year last year. He was the United Soccer Coaches Pacific Region Coach of the Year last year. He's had them in the top 25 for a good chunk of the season. They were up to number 7 at one point this year, and slipped out of the rankings a little bit. They're back in there. They only have one loss. They've had several ties here, but they've only been totally beaten once this season. But he's had a great run here, building a program. He's had great success, continues to build upon that success. So a very solid move here by athletic director Diana Sabo, getting him locked up and extending his contract with Utah State through 2027. He's been tremendous asset to women's soccer at Utah State, but also in the community, and been a great representative of the university in the community in a lot of different things. So Coach Manny Martins is really just about everything you want in a coach, and it behooves the university to do what they can to try to keep him, and hats off for that staff and able to extend him through 2027. Yeah, and he is in a lot of ways becoming the most recognizable face in the athletics department, not just for his success with the team he coaches, but the fact that he's everywhere. Just about every event I go, I feel like I'm, walking past May. It's like, oh, hey, that was Coach Martins. The Aggie Madness. Some of the men's and women's basketball games. Like I feel like I'm always seeing Coach Martins somewhere around, not just at the games. And so that's a huge thing where I think he's just absolutely embraced this community, loves it here, has built an elite program. At Utah State, one of the better programs in the nation at this point. And the fact that Utah State has a bright future going into the Pac-12, I think that's, all the more reason for him to stay. So 3 additional years on his contract. And I'm awaiting the details because I sent in a grammar request to get details on the contract, so I was curious. So we'll report on those when we receive them. But, yeah, we know that it's through the 2027 season, so 25, 26, 2027 seasons, and hopefully further beyond that. You hope that this is a guy who stays 10, 15, however many years he wants to stay and be successful for all of them in both the Mountain West and the Pac-12. Yeah, Utah State is setting records with this soccer program, ranked in, like I said, not only just in the top 25, but also by certain metrics ranked among the best in the country with goals allowed, less than a goal per game in each season. They've got 12 shutouts. They've set or season records for goals scored, assists, points, and shutouts. It's 15 wins are tied for the most in program history. So he's had, besides just the team success, he's helped coach a number of individuals who have earned all conference honors and are able to go on to play professionally, internationally, some of them. So he's had a great run at Utah State. So great to see him under contract for several years more.
Yeah, and the great thing is like, with this season, it's kind of similar to last season's volleyball team where there are a lot of seniors who are contributing to this being like one of the best ever seasons. Well, this just is the best season in Utah State soccer history. I don't think there were some pretty great years when they were in the WAC. Heather Cairns had some pretty dominant teams there, but I don't think any of it really compares to this season. Where you mentioned, tying the program record for wins, and they have one regular season game left, plus at least one in the conference tournament, and probably one more in the. Like they have as many as like 4 or 5 more games left in the season potentially to play.
Yeah, totally smashed the record.
Yeah, so they're very likely going to be above that. But yeah, next year there'll be some question marks because they're going to lose Kylie Olson and Busy Revelo and Cora Brendel and a bunch of players on this year's team. But you also like where he has a lot of players, Tess Wirtz and Kate Christian and, a bunch of, sophomores and juniors, Summer Diamond, a bunch of players who can step up. But we'll see exactly how good of a coach Manny Martins is as far as building a program. We've seen Rob Neilson go through this transition. Started out a bit rough for him this season, but then he's bounced back. And I imagine we could see something similar from Manny Martins, where next year isn't going to be like this ultra special year like it was this year. At least that's not likely.
Well, but didn't we think last year was kind of the high water mark? We weren't sure what this year was going to look like.
I guess that's true.
Well, it's eclipsed that.
I guess maybe I shouldn't be doubting here, just because they have so many players. Like some of these players could become stars. They're good players this year. They could be elite next year.
Yeah.
And you already have elite players on this year's team. You're going to have multiple first team all conference players on this team. So maybe I shouldn't throw too much doubt. But even if you call this the high water mark and they aren't as good next season's team will probably be picked first in the preseason poll and will have expectations of being a conference contender. Because that's now the standard that Manny Martins has met, and that's the standard he's been meeting for several years in a row, being at minimum a conference contender, maybe not necessarily finishing at the top of the table all the time, but finishing near the top of the table. So that's what you can come to expect from Coach Manny Martins. You're not going to have that, once in a couple decade season every single year. But you're going to have a really good season every single year, just like Rob Neilson has done, and Manny Martins is doing the exact same thing here with soccer.
Yeah, so kudos to him, and great move that they were able to get this figured out within the athletic department for Utah State. Diana Sabo and Manny Martins being able to work this out to extend his contract through 2027. We talked about Rob Neilson being in demand. Manny Martins absolutely would be in demand by bigger programs. So this is a major win for Utah State athletics.
Yeah, it's definitely. I imagine his agent getting a lot of calls, being like, "Hey, we're here with insert power conference team here, and we'd like to have you guys take over our programs." Like, well, Manny Martins wants to stick around at Utah State and coach this program. Partly because it's probably nice for Manny to just like walk down the street and go to a high school where you've got multiple Division I players all on the same team,
right,
playing another team who also has multiple Division I players, and just walk up to those players and be like, "Hey, come play for a really a nationally ranked program, and we can walk down back down the street, and you can play Division I soccer."
You can take a 10 to 20 minute drive and see a handful, not just one, but a handful of solid potential recruits to funnel into his program.
Yeah, and those same recruits are the ones that are driving the program to its biggest heights.
Yes.
And that's, again, absolutely amazing stuff. Let's go ahead and take another break. When we come back, maybe let's touch on the World Series a little bit. I know Eric's getting into baseball. I actually haven't watched any of the World Series. I watched a little bit of it, but not a ton. It was funny though because we were in. Actually, let's take a break. We'll get to it coming up next. Don't need to linger too much. We'll talk about baseball coming up next.
Elements has delicious lunch specials. Soup, salad, and bread for just $10 is tasty and quick. Elements lunch menu is full of scrumptious items. Wood-fired pizzas are an excellent choice that include barbecue chicken and the bee's knees. The fresh battered halibut fish and chips with seasoned fries is always a hit. And don't forget the fan favorite, Chipotle fried chicken sandwich. Thursdays, enjoy Elements house-made smoked brisket. Casual or professional. Open Monday through Thursday, 11:30 to 8 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11:30 to 9. Visit theelementsrestaurant.com for reservations.
Whether you're a farmer working the fields, a homeowner tackling weekend projects, or a contractor building the next big thing, you need a Kubota machine that works as hard as you do. And Cash Equipment is home to all your Kubota equipment, service, and parts needs. From plowing fields and clearing land to digging trenches and moving material. Come see why Cash Equipment and Kubota are the choice of champions on the farm, at home, and on the job site. Cash Equipment in Hyde Park and online at cashequipment.com.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I'd like to invite you to learn more about us. Since 1997, we've been Utah's premier one-stop shop for home medical equipment. What sets us apart at Alpine Home Medical is the superior level of customer service. We provide home oxygen, CPAPs, wheelchairs, scooters, breast pumps, and so much more. Come on down and get to know us.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
Following the local teams, it's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
It's the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen. And, you know, one of the biggest showcases in sports right now, the World Series. We haven't touched on that a ton. But Yankees winning Game 4. So they stay alive another day.
Yeah, but it's certainly concern early. First inning, Freddie Freeman. It's another home run. It's like, my gosh, this guy has had an amazing run in the World Series.
I feel like he's got World Series MVP. Just they've already etched it into the trophy.
Yeah, and so Dodgers jump up 2-0 in the first, but the Yankees start to get some offense going finally, especially Volpe. He hits that homer, and a couple guys come in, Judge, Chisholm, Stanton, they all are able to come across the base. So they jump out 5-2 in the third. And then the Dodgers try to make it interesting in the fifth. But then things open up again later in the game with a lot of scoring in the eighth to really put it away for the Yankees. So there's been enough said already all day long about the knuckleheads trying to rip and break Mookie Betts' hand and trying to rip the ball out. So we don't really need to get into that too much, other than it's been giving me some trauma thinking about Steve Bartman back in 2003 with the Chicago Cubs.
Well, what's the point of doing that? Because, is it just to get the ball? Because obviously, fan interference, you're not getting away with that. We have cameras. Is it just for the souvenir?
I guess.
And Bros got banned from the stadium. Apparently kicked out and then banned, at least for the next game.
For tonight's game, yeah.
So it's I don't know, what's the point? Tell the story, I guess, when you're at the bar tonight? I mean, when the ball's heading your way and you're in the stands, you want to try to make a play on the ball. I mean, it's just natural. You do this in every game. But when it's the player's right there, you should let the player do his thing.
But I think most times people are just looking at the ball. They don't even know a player's right there.
That's the thing. Like when somebody reaches out and steals the ball away from the outfielder to catch instead of them, or maybe they deflect it because it's really hard to catch that and it's not always done cleanly. But like when that happens, like, okay, fan wasn't paying attention. But like you said, it's really hard to see, below the peripheral vision low. So like, how are you may not know that the player's there. You may not realize because all your focus is on the ball. I'm going to catch that. And so it's like, you can forgive him for that. It's being a human. It's being imperfect and being hyper fixated on something that we all want. We all want to catch the home run or foul ball.
Right. You're in the World Series. There's a ball heading your way. That's something you're going to put on your mantle forever. I was at a World Series game and this ball came right to me. Yeah. You're going to tell everybody and you're going to live that moment for the rest of your life if you catch it.
Yeah.
But these guys go way beyond that.
Yeah. That's
knuckleheads.
That's just being stupid.
Yeah. Super stupid. But look, this was a game that the Yankees absolutely needed. And what will be interesting is how tonight goes. Because sometimes, is it that they got all of their runs out and they used up everything in one game? Or did this start to release the dam? And so now things are going to start flowing for New York, that they believe they can play against these Dodgers. And the first 3 games were close. It's not like they've been blowouts, but they've been playing from behind or playing catch up for most of this series. And so it'll be interesting to see tonight just how the mood or the momentum, if it continues with the Yankees, or if the Dodgers are able to reestablish themselves. Yankees have a very solid pitcher on the mound tonight, so I think they will have that in their favor. But tonight could be really interesting with Garrett Cole on the mound for the Yankees if they can seize some momentum here and send it back to L.A.
Yeah, that would be huge, obviously, and of course they have to win. It's win or go home every game the rest of the way for the Yankees, so the pressure's on them, and they performed when that pressure was on. Did they keep doing so? They knew they could compete with the Dodgers, just couldn't beat them. Well, now they know they can beat them. Does that translate into 3 more wins in a row? Who knows? Dodgers beat the Yankees 3 times in a row. Maybe the Yankees will return the favor, or in this case, it would be 4 times in a row overall. Have we ever seen those reverse sweeps in the? I don't think
down 3-0 and coming back and win the whole thing.
I only know off the top of my head, or at least remember having noticed it happen in hockey. I can't remember if I've noticed it happening in baseball.
Yeah, I know there's been a couple of instances of being down 3-1 and coming back and winning the series, but down 3-0. If it happened, I think it was like in the 60s or early 70s. I think. Don't quote me on that, but if it's happened, it's been a very, very long time.
Yeah, and they really only have, because the 7-game series are only in the championship series, right?
Yes.
The AL and NLCS and then the World Series.
Correct.
Because they have the 5-game series before that, and then
the wild card is a little different. But
the wild cards kind of bounce back and forth between what they've done. But so it's a little harder for like the NBA, where it's like you have a 7-game series every single round. But even then, I don't know if has it even ever happened down 3-0 in the NBA in any round? Because we've had 3-1.
Yeah,
enough.
There's been a number of those.
We've all seen a few of those, but 3-0, I don't know if I've ever actually seen that. We've seen Game 7s after 3-0, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody complete it.
Not sure. We'll double check on that during one of the breaks.
Yeah, do some research.
Wanted to just share this. This is early ratings returns. Tuesday's game averaged 16.28 million viewers on Fox. Highest rated, most watched Major League Baseball game since Game 7 of the 2019 World Series. Doing very, very well on TV. And crushing NBA Finals numbers. So World Series baseball is doing very well. With viewership, certainly it helps with the teams that are involved and the stars that are involved here.
Yeah, this is probably your high watermark for viewership.
Yeah, so it's very strong, but it's getting a lot of attention, and certainly the Fox executives are happy they have one more game. Yeah, hoping for a few more. This means a lot of money to them.
They're rooting for a Game 7 pretty hard.
But excluding football, because football is the regular season NFL is competing with these World Series numbers.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea of where the NFL stands. And even some high-level college football games are at the same level. But excluding football and Olympics, Game 4 ranks second for the year among sportscasts, behind the NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship game, which was in April. Remember, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
How well it did. But it's doing very well for TV ratings. People are tuning in, even though we were kind of mocking the national interest in this, because
people watch.
There is definitely interest.
I don't know if people
in
are
this World Series.
I don't know if people are getting super in depth super heated as far as the chatter among casual fans, but everyone's tuning in to watch.
Yeah.
So and all the media is talking too.
Yeah, you got great stars. Look, Shohei Ohtani made a return just as a designated hitter. Of course, he's got that injury, so he's kind of slow to come back. But getting him back in the lineup to some degree adds intrigue and interest. So tonight, I think, should be pretty interesting. Definitely be tuning in just to see how that momentum carries, or if the Dodgers are able to jump back out on top.
All right,
and if Freddie Freeman hits another home run.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we've got to hit a break. We had a couple texts come in, so we'll address those. We'll wrap up the first hour. Coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Hey, this is Jarek with Jarek's Fine Jewelry. This October marks our 16th year anniversary. So to celebrate, we want to treat you to an anniversary date. Make it a date night on us. Come engagement ring or anniversary ring shopping at Jarek's Fine Jewelry. We have thousands of designs to choose from, including the newest custom designs. With no strings attached and no purchase necessary, we will buy you dinner at Sweeto Burrito or a sweet treat from Yumberry the entire month of October. Come engagement ring or anniversary ring shopping, and date night is on us. Make it special, make it Jarek's.
Ski season is coming, which means season ski rentals. This is Mark at the Sportsman, where we have over 20 years of season ski rental experience. We rent to kids and adults. Come in to get season ski rentals for your entire family. We like to wait a little later in the fall because there is a chance your kids might grow out of their boots by the time ski season actually rolls around. Starting at $69.99, you will get the right gear for your kids to ski this year at the Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan, with tons of parking in the back.
Join Adams Wealth Advisors on November 14th at 12:30 for a Market Outlook event, diving into the recent election results and their impact on the economy. Understanding and being prepared for what may happen due to political changes is a critical part of your financial plan. Discover how these political changes could shape financial markets as we head into 2025. Register now by calling 752-1702. 752-1702. November 14th, 12:30. Don't miss this opportunity to stay informed with Adams Wealth Advisors.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
The Aggies are number one here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Wrapped up the first hour here on the Full Court Press. Had a few texts come in. We were talking about teams that coming back down from 3-0. Went down a bit of a rabbit hole. A couple of texters helping us out here. Definitely 6391 sending us to a Wikipedia article, which you have a whole Wikipedia article dedicated to teams.
Reverse sweep.
Yeah, reverse sweep or attempting it. There have been a handful that have tried it. One. We had another texter. It was 7994. Oh yeah, and
found his answer.
Yeah, found his answer already. Bill Buckner, the 1986 World Series. They were up in that series, and Game 6, he lets the ball go through. The error there, and they end up losing that series. Part of the curse of the great
Bambino.
Of the
Bambino, yeah. It's on the Red Sox for so long.
Yeah, I think that really solidified people's belief in that curse was that play. But yeah, 6391. Before sending us this very helpful link, mentioning the Red Sox beating the Yankees being down 3-0. And yeah, that was, it's the only one that has ever been successful in Major League Baseball. The Red Sox beating the Yankees after being down 3-0. There was a
2004 in the ALCS.
Yeah, 2004. And then in the ALCS in 2020, there was, they were down 3-0, made a Game 7. Houston Astros came down, forced a Game 7, but ended up losing to the Tampa Bay Rays even after forcing that Game 7. And then looking at other sports, by far the most successful coming back from 3-0 and even getting it to a Game 7 has been hockey, where there's been, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 cases where a Game 7 has been forced.
Yeah.
4 of them were ultimately successful, and one as recently as 2014. 1942, 1975, 2010, and 2014, all successful attempts. Of course, last year, the Stanley Cup Finals, there was 3-0, and they forced a Game 7. But the Florida Panthers held off the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, but across all of sports, professional sports, it's only been successful 5 times.
Yeah. 4 of those in hockey.
4 of those in the NHL.
Nobody's pulled it off in the NBA. That's going to do it for us here in the first hour. We'll talk about, the NBA, Utah Jazz, as well as Utah Hockey Club here on the Full Court Press.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Football is a game that naturally favors elite athletes, but not everything is about physical ability in the NFL. Tom Brady didn't exactly put on a show at the Combine. He goes on to win 7 Super Bowls. Jerry Rice, Cooper Kupp, similarly unimpressive at the Combine. Rice is the greatest receiver of all time, and Cooper Kupp just the 4th receiver ever to win a Triple Crown. That was in 2021. There's more to the game than what you see at the Combine, and the Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson is the latest example, just in the opposite direction, though. He wowed teams with physical traits coming out of Florida, but that athleticism hasn't translated to stardom. Richardson has completed just 44% of his passes, and he's now being replaced by 39-year-old Joe Flacco. That's not to say Richardson's career in Indy is over, but with the draft season quickly approaching, just remember, elite combine numbers are just a check in a box, not an indication of future success. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Fall is officially here, and that means football and whiskey season is in full swing. And there's no better way to enjoy the game than with Keeper's Heart Irish American Whiskey, the official whiskey of The Dan Patrick Show. Crafted by distilling legend Brian Nation, former master distiller of Jameson and Redbreast whiskeys, Keeper's Heart is a unique blend of smooth Irish whiskey and bold American whiskey for a completely new taste experience. Whether you enjoy it neat, on the rocks, or in a signature cocktail, it's the ultimate game day companion. In just 2 short years, Keeper's Heart has already earned over 120 awards, including World's Best Irish Whiskey for their 10-year single malt. Visit KeepersHeartWhiskey.com, use the promo code DAN2023, get a $10 discount on your purchase. Plus, surprise the whiskey lover in your life with a free custom label, a perfect holiday gift you can order directly on their website. This fall, elevate your game day with Keeper's Heart Whiskey and make it your MVP as you cheer on your team.
Days get shorter, temperatures get colder. Be prepared with a stop at your local Napa Auto Parts. Snow, ice, and cold weather are all hard on wiper blades. Napa features long-lasting silicone wiper blades from Rain-X and Trico. Stop in for a new set. They'll even help you install them. They'll also help you install a new battery if you need it. Pick up some House diesel treatment and get the case lot pricing, $12 for a half-gallon jug. Be prepared for cold weather and snow with help from your friends at your locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts.
This is Robbie Phelps with LSS Insurance. It's time to reevaluate your Medicare coverage for next year. There are big changes to Medicare Part D, and we can help. LSS Insurance is dedicated to providing you excellent care, support, and ensuring your health coverage meets your individual needs. Skip all the TV ads and loads of mail. Let us help you through all your local options face-to-face. Call 752-9493. Come see us. Call LSS Insurance at 752-9493 to speak with a licensed insurance agent.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. KLGN Logan.